Hello, Milena.
Hi.
Milena Moser, originally from Switzerland,
Yes.
living in San Francisco now. Thank you
Yes.
so very much for your time to
Of
speak to
course.
me on Shift Happens. I remember the monkey very well
Yeah.
um, in the back because I took my ever first creative writing class with you. I
Oh,
don't know
wow.
how I don't know how many years ago, like 13
You
or
must
14
be.
years ago in
Wow.
Aargau.
Arau. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Aargau, yeah,
Yeah,
in like some back room.
yeah, yeah. It
Anyway,
was a little shed like this
yeah, a
one, a little
shed.
bigger. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I remember the monkey. I'm glad
Mhm.
he's joining us.
Yeah.
So, as you know, in Shift Happens, I speak to women, and we speak about a pivotal moment, turning point in life. Of course, there are always many. And before we start our conversation, I wanted to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
What is your current state of mind?
Jet lagged.
Ah, very familiar.
But generally very happy. I'm in a very good place. I really like this phase. I'm in my 60s now, and I really love this age. It has a lot of advantages.
Okay, while we're at it, what's one of them?
Um, I think you get used to yourself and you don't try to conform to other people's ideas of, there's just no time and energy left for all that. And so or I should say I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I'm much more at ease with myself and I'm
Mhm.
much kinder to myself than I used to be as a younger woman. I was always like, do better, not good enough. Why did you do this? Why didn't you do that? And now I'm just like, just doing my
Great.
best
I
today.
can't wait. Three
Something
more
to look
years,
forward to.
3 more years for me, but that's a
Yeah.
good one. How would you describe your idea of perfect happiness?
For me, happiness is like it's not it's not a constant, it's moments. And to me, it's almost like a sport or a challenge to find a tiny bit of happiness, even when it looks like there's none. Like I've been with someone for the last 10 years who's very, very challenged health-wise, to put it mildly. And
Mhm.
often we have like, we spend birthdays and Christmas or whatever in a hospital or in the ER, and there's always there's always something to there's always a little drop of happiness you can squeeze out of the moment. And so
Mm,
it's almost like a discipline that I'm getting better and better at.
interesting. Um, which living person do you most admire and why?
Living person, I would say my friend Katharina Faber, who's a writer. She published 3 books, and I've learned more from her, not only in terms of writing, but also like how to live life, than from anyone else, including parents, teachers, anyone. And she's a little bit similar to my husband. She has a lot of, she gets hit hard by life, but she always finds a way to make it work. And she has an un uncontainable joy of life that is really, really inspiring. Plus, she's the only person I can talk to about my characters as if they were real living people, because she does the same. So that's really fun.
Oh, that's great. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so we Before I speak to the guests on my podcast, we are in a brief email contact, and
Sorry.
and you shared that, of course, obviously, there are many points in life that have been transformational and a pivotal moment, and of course, I'm super curious about Sophia. What's her
Yeah,
name? No, Sophie.
Sophie.
So Sophie. So that, of course, I've never heard before. Someone who participated in an arachnophobia workshop. Yeah. So the floor is yours. I love spiders, by the way, and sorry for everyone who's dealing with this, but maybe this is going to be helpful.
Yeah, we should put a trigger warning. So we're talking
Yeah.
about spiders.
Yes.
So I had a huge irrational fear of spiders all my life. And to the point that I could not, if there was a spider in the corner, I was like paralyzed. I was afraid to leave the room because it might jump at me, or I don't know. I couldn't even touch the picture of a spider. It was completely irrational and limiting. There's, traveling. Are there spiders? I'm not going there. So, and so when
everybody had to check the room before and make sure.
Yeah. And, with kids, they're afraid. You're the mother, you're supposed to take care of things, and I couldn't. And so when I was, I think 47, probably, I was working for a magazine in Switzerland, and I heard about this arachnophobia workshop at the zoo in Zurich, and I said, I'm going to cover that for the magazine. And I was sure it wouldn't work on me. And so I went to that class, and they had like Sophie, the red-kneed Mexican tarantula that is pretty big. It's a pretty big animal. And she was in a terrarium behind a locked door in the next room. And still I couldn't focus on anything people were saying because I was so aware of there's a big, huge spider behind that door. 4 hours later, I had this spider in my hand and I thought she was beautiful. So, and the whole workshop was amazing because there was a psychologist, but there was also a spider expert who was so in love with spiders that he kind of made me see the beauty in those animals. For example, did you know that they carry their heart in their butt?
No.
And it's like the heart covers all the essential organs, and then there's only the skin covering the heart, so they're completely unprotected. I thought that was so poetic. So anyway, I was doing all the exercises and thinking like, oh yeah, I know what he's doing. I've been to therapy. I know what he's doing. This is not going to work. But it did. And for me, it changed everything because that was one thing I knew about myself for sure. I am deadly afraid of spiders. I have a spider in my hand, and I think it's beautiful the way she moves her legs and the little hairs on her legs and everything that I hated before. Suddenly I thought was beautiful. So if that can change, anything can change. And for me, that was the beginning. I went through a big upheaval in my like late 40s, early 50s, like maybe the 2 years before my 50th birthday. I had a horrible divorce. I was very miserable. I ended up leaving my country. I moved to Santa Fe, and I fell in love with someone who lives in San Francisco. And I just, my life was kind of like, and to me, it started with Sophie. Because my next thought was, if that is possible, what else is possible?
It's like everything is turned open and can flow. Yeah.
And we all have beliefs about ourselves, and it's nice to kind of know yourself and be comfortable with yourself, but there's it can be limiting. Like,
it can be limiting. But then I also have to think that Sophie has something to do with the monkey, because I remember when you said in the creative writing class, we all have the monkey in us, these
Yeah,
monkey voices that kind of torment us.
yeah,
And then they tell us that this is not a sentence, this is not a
yeah,
story, and so
yeah,
on and so forth. But just to continue and stick
yeah,
to it and be
yeah,
open. Yeah,
yeah.
interesting.
Hmm.
And you said that you then went to America, but I read in your biography that you had spent already some time
Yes.
in the US when your kids were younger.
Yeah. With my second husband, we spent 8 years in San Francisco between 98 and 2006. And it was kind of on a whim, and it was meant, we were meant to stay 6 months or a year, and then we just ended up staying and staying and staying. And to be honest, I could have stayed forever, but then, we went back, and then, other things happened. But I always had this longing to come back here. And so it took me a while, but I did it.
You did it,
And it's
and
funny
that
that
was
I did.
that was always in the back of your head, yeah, that you wanted
Yeah.
to go back
And
to the
I,
West
I would
Coast.
come back every year, like once or twice a year, and my kids still had friends here, and we kind of kept it. It stayed part of our identity in a way, and then the kids more and more settled in Switzerland, and I always had like a part of myself that felt like I belong here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Santa Fe, I mean, that's a very creative, it's a place that draws a
Yeah.
lot of creative people together. Was that a very special experience, or was it more of a landing point and so significant?
It was both. I mean, at the moment when it happened, there was just a pull, and San Francisco is a very, very expensive place. I think it's one of the most expensive places in the world. And so once you leave, it's really hard to come back here. And Santa Fe was for me a way to suddenly I realized, well, it doesn't have to be San Francisco. You can go somewhere else. And it was it's also a perfect place for there were a lot of women like me, middle-aged, divorced, heartbroken, Northern European, because Santa Fe is so, it's what we Europeans imagine the Wild West to be. It's Karl May and Federica de Cesco. It's all our fantasies come true there.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's also a lot of preying on these women that I realized pretty quickly. There's a lot of it's a very welcoming but also very harsh place. It's really both. It's a lot of contradictions, and I was very lucky to have one big great friend there, Doris, who has been there forever and who helped me a lot to figure out my way, and she also protected me from all kinds of bad guys. Said, not this one, not this one, not this one.
Very good. That's helpful.
And so it was a wonderful time. And it's funny because someone said to me in the beginning, it's a place where people come to put themselves back together. And that's what they did. And it's really funny that I fell in love with someone who lives in San Francisco and basically got me back to San Francisco, where I thought I had no place anymore. So, life is just interesting, but you really have to a lot of people said, well, you decided on Santa Fe. Doesn't matter if you fall in love. You can't change your plans. But I always kind of go with the flow. I kind of trust that life will take me to a good place.
Obvious. I mean, that's what my intuition was like. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the circle closed there, and you were on the way you were supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that in our fast life, I think everywhere, whether in the US or in Europe, it's we're used to plan, and then it's this step, and then it's this step, and then this going with the sea. Who said it that this famous quote about the river, you never step you never step twice into the same river, because
Oh,
you
yes,
also,
yes, yes. Yeah,
Jesus, I
because the
mean,
river is always, yeah,
yeah, because
I
always,
don't know.
and we
Like
are
that.
always changing, yeah.
Yeah.
But so now you're in San Francisco, and you've been living
Yes.
there for 10, 12 years now?
No, I left Switzerland again in 2015, so that's 9 years ago. And
Ah,
then
okay.
I think I left Santa Fe in early 2019, probably. So it's 5 years full-time in San Francisco. And before I was kind of going back and forth. I wasn't ready to give up on it, but yeah, it just all kind of blew up in my face financially. But it's all good. It's all good.
So you live on both sides, and
Mhm.
as you just said, you have jet lag, which from
Yeah,
Switzerland to San
yeah,
Francisco,
yeah.
it's even longer, right? It's 9 hours different.
11.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Oh, the time difference. Yeah, 9 hours.
the time difference, yeah. And so I've been reading your columns in Switzerland's big newspaper Blick, and
Sonntagsblick. Very
Sonntag,
important
sorry.
distinction. Very
It's a,
important distinction.
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, the
It's much more
Sonntagsblick.
respectable.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and I'm sorry. And I love it because it's really like these very um, pointed vignettes,
Mhm.
um, also about this life in two different worlds.
Yeah,
And I live like that as well. So of
yeah,
course I'm always very interested
yeah.
in it. So I had wondered about, of course, this life, how this reflects into your writing.
Mhm.
Um, Not so much story-wise, because of course one
Mhm.
gets so much input and inspiration from it. But in it really technically also in your writing, I mean, are you tempted also to write in English, or is really German? Is this like your
Yeah.
home, your writing home, and that will
In
never
a way,
change?
yes. In a way, it's the closest oh, look, I just saw a spider. In a way, it's the closest I come to this sense of Heimat, of
Hmm.
home is when I'm writing. And as a Swiss German writer, German is not my first language, but we adopted so early, like in kindergarten or first day of school, that it becomes like it's your language, but not your language. So it's already a second language in a way.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so it's like I'm used to not, for example, not being able to just write down a conversation I hear in public transportation and just take it like the way I heard it. I always have to translate it. And so that's just
Interesting. Yeah, of course. Hmm.
innate, by now. It's like, and then I don't know, I never dream in English. I don't think in English. And people say the way you count your money or, like 2, 3, 4, 6, or that's your language. Or if you react to a small, like a puppy or a baby, if you say, "Oh my God, how cute," or "Yeah, wie herzig," that's where your language is. And so that's very clear for me still. Um,
Hmm.
Still German. Yeah. I did write some stuff in English when people ask me to, and it's not that I can't do it, but it never feels as mine as when I
Hmm.
write in German.
Hmm. Well, and also you've been writing for so many years. What, like 30 years, 40 years?
It's been 40 years since I sent out my first manuscript when I was 21 years old. Yeah.
And I read in your bio that it took 6 years of
Yeah.
rejections,
Rejection letters.
6
Yeah.
years of rejection
Years.
letters
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
finally get your first book published.
Yeah. I'm
Unbelievable.
working now on a book about writing,
Hmm.
and it's kind of half memoir, half workshop in a book. And I'm thinking about a lot of things, like a lot of memories come back up, and I've been thinking about that time. It was hard, and I was very close to giving up, but I never did. Why? I don't know. It's just I never had that, kind of self-esteem where I felt like, well, I know that I'm good and, the world will catch up with me. It was just like, there's nothing else I want to do. So it has to work out
One
somehow.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it did, kind of. Well, it never did, because my first 3 books were published by friends. So I never found a publisher until I was already successful. And then, of course, they came and wanted to buy me like a football player or something.
And so why I was thinking about what for you maybe has been one of the most important advices for writing or your writing process.
I can't tell you. It's just something that was always inside me. I read a memoir lately, not long ago. It was The Many Lives of Mama something. I forget the author. It's a memoir about somebody who was addicted to heroin, and it's the whole story. But it starts with, my first addiction were books, and then she writes about how she kind of escaped the whatever miserability of her childhood was in books, and that was exactly what I was doing. That was when I was very little, reading, and then very soon writing, and reading was always kind of almost the same thing, and it was my escape. And I maybe I'm just lucky that I never switched to heroin or something else. But
just gotta say,
but it was like this, there was always this pull, so that I didn't need advice. I didn't need instruction or anything. It was always like, this is, if you give me any choice in the world, this is where I want to go. So
that's of course very admirable, but also, one can get very envious if someone has such a clear vision of where to go.
But don't forget that it was an escape. So if you're a happy child, you don't need to escape so much. So
yes, yeah. Of course, I mean, I can't say anything to that. But then again, the escape can lead you also into your own way.
Yeah. But it's true. I never, like, both my kids were more like, I don't quite know what to do, and I'm interested in this and in that. And I just kind of stared at them like, it made me realize how really lucky it is to just know, there's one thing. But if that one thing doesn't work out, then you're a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, but it did.
Yeah, it did. Yes, it did.
And you share your knowledge and practice of writing with students and people who are trying it out. What's fascinating for you in that process?
How much we have in common, even if we are in completely different places in our lives, if we are completely different personalities, completely different writing projects, completely different writing styles, but there's something that we have in common. And the more people I work with, and with the online classes that I started doing during the pandemic, I have like one-on-one Zooms with each participant. So I have much more time with each person than in an analog course. And it just always fascinates me how we're all, when we write, there's something that connects us, and that we have in common. And it doesn't matter. The only advantage I have is my experience. But I have the exact same doubts and comments, monkey comments in my mind, even after I think I published 24 books by now. So yeah, but it's not, the monkeys don't care. They're not impressed. So
No.
that's, to me, that's something really humbling and also touching, that because writing is a lonely art. It's not like you're in a band or you're in a theater troupe or something. You're not, you're alone with your thoughts and your monkeys and all that. And when we talk to each other, we realize, oh, we're all the same, really. So that's my favorite part.
And is it more women, more men that participate in classes? Is there kind
with
of
me, more women, but online, more men, and also more younger people, younger men. I think, I did an apprenticeship in a bookstore 700 years ago. And even then, it was like men get published more, get more funding from cultural institutions, sell more books, get more awards, but women are the ones buying the books, reading the books. So I always get a little, like, sometimes I do a reading and then the librarian or whatever says, like, it's only women. And I'm like, what do you mean only? What do you mean only? You're a woman, I'm a woman. What do you mean only? So, but I hear often, I mean, I was always surrounded by men, and I grew up with men that are avid readers. So it was a kind of weird to me to realize that a lot of men don't read. They think like it's not fiction, they think like, why should I read fiction? There's no, I don't know, there's no gain in it. There's no, what can I learn? I don't know. And so there's a whole world where people don't read, but I don't live in that world. So it doesn't really affect me so much.
And looking back over your career, do you think it has changed, that women have gained more gravitas in the whole publishing world and writing world, or
No.
really?
No.
Oh.
No. I still hear from women, no. This still the same. It's there was a time where, there was this whole women's books shelves in the bookstores, but that's discriminating. That's not a gain. That's like, here we have literature and here we have women's books. And someone like Peter Stamm doesn't end up in men's literature. He ends up in literature. So and I still hear from young female writers that they have the same, where I find, oh my God, still, like, who's taking care of, but we have to say Switzerland is a very, very, very conservative country and a little behind the times. Who's taking care of your kids while you're doing readings? Didn't you just have a baby? What does
This is still being asked?
Still. I swear, sorry, I'm pounding my table here. I just heard that from a writer who had a baby, that, she was trying to get a reading, to organize readings for new books, and people would say like, but you just had a baby. Yes, I'm still a writer. And, your physical appearance being a factor in how you're perceived, that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. And if you look at who gets awards, who gets published, who gets reviews, who gets promoted, it's definitely
still
more
inequality there. Oh, what a pity.
Yeah, but it's not the end of the world yet. We, maybe in 100 years from now it will be different.
Yes, we're
Maybe
working
nobody
on
will
it.
care. That would be my dream, that it just wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
If you're man, woman, non-binary, whatever, it's a book. I like it. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all that
And
counts. Really.
and in a way, in books, it could be quite easy to do, because
Yeah.
it's about the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. We'll see. Well, you said that your next book, because I wanted to ask you what's next. That's what I
Yeah.
usually do at this point in the conversation. So you're working on one next book. Do you already have an idea for the one after that in mind?
Yes, actually, the one after that was the one before that.
Ah,
I was working on a novel that I started about maybe, I don't know, more than a year ago. A novel that is kind of set in San Francisco during the summer of love time, late 60s. And I was working on that. And every year in November, I participate in National Novel Writing Month. That's just a tradition. I've been doing that for almost 20 years. And I never quite made the word count, but I just love the energy of it. So I was doing that last year. And I was in the middle of a book tour with my last novel. And I was kind of overwhelmed. And suddenly I had all these childhood memories coming up instead of scenes from my novel. And I thought, like, well, whatever. I mean, my writing practice is not I just take whatever comes on the page and then I'll figure it out later. So for a month, I wrote about my childhood, and then I put it away and went back to my novel. And then after a while, I realized, wait a minute, all these memories have to do with writing. So I thought maybe it's time to put all the stuff I know about writing, and I've been doing these workshops for over 20 years. I've been a writer forever. I've been a published writer for 36 years. I have a lot to share. So why not try to put it in a shape and structure? So I pulled out those memories and I showed them to my agent and my editor and publisher just now, actually. And they were like, yeah, that's great. Do that first. And so I'm putting the novel to the side, but I basically have 2 months to finish the book about writing. And so it's going to come out next spring. And, the deadline is end of October. So end of October, I'll go back to the novel. And I think this little break will have, might have been good for it. Because this, a lot of it has been, it turned out not to be the way I thought it would be. Turns out my main character didn't like that time that I'm so obsessed with. I'm so obsessed with the late 60s. And I wish I could have been alive there. And then I have this character who's been through it and tells me it wasn't that much fun. And I'm like, what? What are you telling me? So,
it's good you had a little puffer in between.
Yes. So now I'm thinking of something else, and I'll go back to her when I'm ready.
Yeah.
I know it sounds a bit weird, but
no, I like it. I mean, to as you just said, you go with what comes up, what presents itself to you, and that is not a bad practice, for anything in life, I guess, instead of saying no, saying yes, inviting it in,
or planning. That's something I never. I mean, I used to make plans, but it never, life never kind of stuck to my plan. So, and an American friend once said to me, your life seems to be a lot about serendipity. And I was like, serendipity, I had to look it up. And it's like, there's not an exact German translation, but it's a word I just came to love. And yes, that's it, serendipity. And I think if I'm good at something, it's kind of jumping on the train when it passes through. It's like, it's I can take those signs and turns in the road and say, okay, I'll go there. Yeah, if you want me to go there, I'll do that. And it's a great ride.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Actually, I'm doing these salons in New York and Zurich and Berlin for women, and serendipity has been one topic.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we talked about it, and we called it in German der glückliche Zufall.
Der glückliche Zufall.
Aber is it really, chance? And how do we get there? And that you can almost not cultivate it, but practice.
Yeah.
That serendipity happens to you, and you can see it. And
you have to recognize it, and then you have to, because often it's not like, I had this plan when I moved to Santa Fe, and I was completely worn out and overworked with things that I loved doing. It had to do with writing. It was all fascinating, great assignments, everything. It was just too much of a good thing. And so I thought I moved to Santa Fe. I live a very frugal life in my very tiny house. I give away all my possessions. I focus only on novels. I'm not doing columns, workshops, all that stuff anymore. And I will never look at another man again. I will just focus on my writing because I'm done with all that stuff. And then I fall in love with someone who lives 2,000 kilometers away, who is very sick, who kind of turns my life upside down. And I'm flying back and forth. I'm spending all my savings. I'm losing the house. I'm like, and sane people would say, like, Milena, stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. But it's been the happiest time of my life. It's I'm so grateful, and I'm learning so much in this situation that for a lot of people would be like, oh, red flag, red flag, red flag. But or people say, like, well, you lost your house, that's terrible. But it's it's a house.
Yeah,
it's a human being. It's like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why even talk about it? But I think that's also a Swiss thing, is that maybe it's a human thing, but I see it more in Switzerland, that we are so afraid of failing, or not even failing, but not succeeding with something, that people don't try to.
Yeah, I mean, predictability is often seen as the solution to stability and security and all this. Yeah. And life just doesn't go like that.
No.
It just doesn't.
No. Life doesn't care, and health doesn't care. Like, you can be the healthiest person in the world, and you can have health insurance and money and everything, and you can still get hit by disaster. Yeah.
Or be unhappy.
Or be unhappy.
Yes. No, really, I mean, tragic. So, if you need to relax, what do you do?
I read. That sounds. One of the greatest things I do that everybody envies me more than anything in my life is 4 days a year I rent a little cabin with a friend, and we just read for 4 days, and we barely talk to each other, except for, are you hungry? Do you want me to cook some pasta? Okay. Or, do you want a glass of wine? Okay. But otherwise we just let each other read, and it's the best vacation you can have. And it makes me sad that so many people are like, oh my God, that sounds like a dream. I wish I could do that. And everybody should have a reading friend.
Yeah, good reminder.
Yeah.
And to energize yourself?
I'll take a cold shower.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I could say quadruple espresso, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I neither get too exhausted or too stressed out or too, it's like the relaxing and the energizing can all happen in the same hour organically.
Well, I thank you.
Wow, that went so fast.
Yes, it did. It did. It really did. Well, it's I'm listening to not super many podcasts, but a number of podcasts, and I always like this time between 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just
it's perfect.
My way, and I think it can be wie sagt man, pointiert, and I think that's what we had. So
yes,
and thank you so much for your time and for sharing this.
Absolutely.
This little insight. And has Sophie made it into one of your books?
No, but I've written about her, and I might put her in the book about writing. Maybe not. I'm not sure yet, but she's been a symbol. That, yeah.
All right.
And I go see her when I'm in Zurich. I used to not look at that whole room, and now I go say hi. I don't know if it's still the same spider, maybe not, but
that's great. That's amazing. So you are starting in the day over in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I hope it will be a good one.
I'm sure it will be. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.